It's Golf Traveler with Denis Knight. Welcome to episode 3 of my golf podcast. Tonight, well, beforehand, I invite you to come into live chat. I think I've got that problem possibly solved. And of course, I would love, to hear what you have to say. So tonight's topics are going to include I want to revisit my promotion. I did last week. I said I'd give 12 golf balls for 12 comments on 12 different golf courses. So 12, 12, 12. So I want to revisit that promotion. I also want to talk a little bit about putting, especially as it pertains to the golf ball and the line on the golf ball, and if that helps with your putting. Last week I had a segment called What Do You Think? And I asked about your favorite golfer. Well, I've got a segment this week called What Do They Think? And I'm going to use some quotes from Ben Hogan. Ben Hogan was one of the greatest golfers, especially in the 40s and 50s in particular. Uh, and I want to take some of his quotes and see if they relate to your game and discuss those. And last but or to begin with, I want to talk a little bit about, and I've got a video of this on my YouTube channel. I've got over 66 videos now, but I've got a video over this topic that I want to talk about. Determining the distance of your golf clubs. I My history with golf is very short. I've only really played 2 years, but I've been a science teacher for a lot longer than that. And I like to try to apply science concepts, especially to something that's repetitive or something that generates a lot of data. Well, hello, golf generates data. And one of the things that I realized early on playing golf was when I got to the ball and I knew how far it was from the hole, I had to figure out which club to use. And so what I did early on was I went to one of these facilities called Backwoods Golf here. But any place where you can hit a club a number of times, however many you feel comfortable, um, hit it a number of times. You may have to eliminate some outliers, but what it'll do is after so many hits, you'll begin to see an average distance for that club. And the more you do that, the more you can rely on that distance. Now you have to understand that distance is calculated at 100% swing. So you have to take that into account, right? But once you have that data in your head, okay, this club I hit this far and that club I hit that far. Then as you approach the ball, that helps you critically in making a decision what you're going to do. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're 100 yards out, okay? My situation, okay? I've got a 52 that I like to hit, and I can hit it about 90 to 95, say, full out. I've got an approach that's 48 degree, and I hit it roughly about 105, 110, 105, 110. So let's say 90, 110. I need something in between that. Okay. So what do? Well, I may have to go to another variable. I may have to figure out, is it windy? Is it wind blowing in my face? Then I'm going to have to club up to hit the approach. If the wind's behind my back, I may have to grab the 52. Okay. Now, if it's up above me, like I'm hitting up, then I'm going to have to get that approach again. So you have to take in other variables into consideration, but you got to have your baseline data. You got to have the baseline data, okay, to work from. So get your clubs, Go out someplace where you can get accurate data and hit those clubs. I'd go 2 hour sessions and hit a series of clubs, come home and process the data and get myself some good averages. So you need to be able to determine the distance you can hit each club at 100%. And then you can adjust from that. The next thing I want to talk about is what do they think? I'm kind of taken back by looking at some of the things that I've seen from Ben Hogan lately. You know, Ben Hogan was an extremely successful golfer, but one of the things that made Ben Hogan successful was he was very meticulous, and he was one of those guys that used analytics, even though they wasn't called that in those days. But here's a quote, or a couple of quotes, that I find very intriguing. Ben said, "Golf is a game of misses." A game of misses. He also went on to say, "You must leave your misses in the best possible positions." Okay? It's a game of misses. Leave your misses in the best possible positions. So as I read that, I thought, and I tried to kind of process what I thought that meant. Okay? And he ended up using an analogy which made it a little easier for me to understand. But he said, you know, if you had a shotgun array, like you shot a shotgun and you had all the BBs in an array, he said, you intended for that BB to be that center shot. That's where you were shooting. He said, but all those other BBs are possibilities, are misses. Okay? So I thought, okay, that makes sense to me. I'm a little thick, you know, but I was able to put that together. And I thought, okay, that makes sense to me. So, because I think there's a lot of people out there, um, like myself, that are always unsure exactly how to aim, you know, when we're setting up to hit a ball. Okay? You know, he went on to say, and I read some more about this and found some other golfers that also had this happen to them. It's not always exactly where you're aiming that where that ball ends up, and sometimes that mistake or that miss ends up being a great shot, and sometimes that's the difference. Let me kind of give an example. You know, again, if I went out and hit a bunch of shots, let's say I shot 100 shots, I'm going to have a certain number of them right down the middle. I'm going to have a certain number of them as much as, say, 15 yards to the left and 15 yards to the right. So if I'm hitting, say, 130 to 150 yards out, I have to realize that there's a possibility that I could hit it in, you know, 15 yards either way of where I'm aiming. So I've got about a 30-yard area there of tolerance, or kind of a, if you bring it back to where you're hitting, it kind of creates a cone for you. So you got this cone of possibilities, let's call it. But to be honest with you, that's where the ball could possibly end up. Now, how does this pertain to what you're doing out on the golf course? Well, let's say you're 120 yards out of the green and the pin just happens to be on the right side of the green. Okay. So, what do? Do you aim right at the pin? Okay, well, okay. But what Ben Hogan is saying is that your cone of possibilities may be that if you would aim in the middle of the green, that, yeah, you might hit it the middle of the green. Yeah, your 15 yards to the left might be on the far edge of the green, but your far right one may be right near the hole. However, if you shift that cone to the right and use that pin as the center, then your 15 yards to the left, you're going to be okay. But your 15 yards to the right, You might be in the water or some other hazard and it completely destroy your round. So you have to really take a lot of those kind of things into consideration. But that's a good general rule of thumb. So that when you're looking out there and you're trying to determine where you're trying to hit the ball, realize that your aim should be in between almost the areas where you're trying to go. Because you may go a little more left, you may go a little more right than you anticipate. Okay? And really, golf is a game of trying to improve your possibilities. Okay? I mean, you're going to make mistakes. That's golf is inherent. But you want to minimize the mistake itself. Okay? As they say, play your percentages, don't play the flags. Okay? Now, putting. The lines on a golf ball and how that can aid in your putting. When I think about putting, I think about aiming a direction because that's really what you're doing. You're trying to hit this ball in a predetermined direction. Okay? So you're aiming that ball. Now, what you have to do is determine that direction. But if you aim the ball in that direction, and if you have a line in the center, okay, then that can help you with that aim, and it can also give you what I like. Second thing I like about these kinds of balls that have lines down the center, okay, that center point is a point of contact. So if I can focus my putter on that line directly, then I know I'm giving myself the best chance to hit it straight because I'm hitting it dead center on that golf ball. Okay? So that line really gives me a couple advantages. It helps with my aiming and it helps me with my point of contact. And here's a third benefit that I'm I'm hard headed, but I'm slowly starting to believe. There's a different perspective that when you look at a golf ball, straight on and try to line it up versus standing over it as the putter and then looking at it. Okay? It's always different. And so what I have found that if I will use this to aim with and look at it from behind and line it up, all I have to do when I go to putt takes all the pressure off of me and the actual, uh, the mechanics of the putting. All I have to do is take my putter and line it up directly with this and make sure I hit it at that point of contact. Then all I really have to do in my mind is determine the pace. How hard am I going to hit it? Okay? So, whether I'm aiming right at the hole or aiming at a point because I know it's going to break, I've got to aim my golf ball. That's what putting is, aiming the golf ball, right? So why not use something like a striped ball or a ball with a line because it helps you aim, it allows you a point of contact, okay, and then it allows you to look at it from behind and determine that direction better. Okay? So three good reasons I find using these balls um, helps me with my putting. And believe you me, I need all the help I can get. All right, last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about the promotion that I started last week. All right. Last week I asked you to get on my YouTube channel. And on my YouTube channel, you can go to the tab that says videos. There's over 66 videos on there. Find 12 of those videos that you like or would be interested in. Watch those videos and leave a comment directly on that video, right below it, right there on the YouTube channel. And if you'll leave 12 comments, okay, on 12 different videos. I'll not only give you this brand new dozen of super soft Callaways, whites, give you that. But I'll also include, I'm going to up the ante. I'm going to also include this Parsons Extreme Golf PXG hat. Look at this. Right, it's got the clip in the back, so it's adjustable, but it's a nice clip. It's a new era hat. Very nice hat. Great condition. PXG. Right, high-end equipment. More expensive than I can afford, that's for sure. Right. So, 12 comments, 12 courses on my YouTube channel. You get 12 golf, or a dozen golf balls, and a PXG hat. That's a $50 retail value, maybe more, and you get it for free. All you have to do is leave 12 comments, or be the first one to leave 12 comments, and this is yours. I really want to hear what you have to say. I want to thank you for watching episode 3. I enjoy making these podcasts. I hope in the future that I can get some feedback and that'll help me. But until then, I will continue to generate topics that I think are of interest to me and hopefully of interest to you, the viewer. My plans for episode 4 include, I want to talk a little bit about how to make golf more affordable. I mean, we love to play golf, but there's ways to make it to where you can play it more often without it really killing you too bad. I want to talk a little bit about a particular course. I want to spotlight a course, and I'm looking to spotlight Horton Smith or Dream Valley, one of those two. I want to spotlight for next week's show. I also want to talk a little bit about the tournaments that are coming up in September, okay, to kind of keep you apprised of that. As I said before, I think playing in golf tournaments is it's just so much fun. And so I want to keep you updated on those. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to present a winner of my promotion. Okay? 12 comments on 12 courses. You get the golf balls, you get the hat if you're the first to do it. Okay? So I look forward to seeing those comments. And until then, this is Golf Traveler with Denis Knight signing out.